And we have our Battleground Bros here with us live tonight here at Xfinity Live. Vince and David, thanks so much for joining us. You've been out there talking to these young voters, visiting college campuses. But before you went out on this tour, you dove into some research from Pew. And what did you find? What was top of mind?
Well, let me tell you this. So if you are a millennial, you're 18 to 35 this year, and you're going to be voting. So for those of you who don't know, if you don't fit into that category, you're not a millennial, or you haven't aged into it yet.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. But yes, Mr. Boomer. So what they learned, so the Pew Research Center did a lot of research. They do a lot of political research, but they specifically looked at millennials a lot because they are coming into power. 41% of them are registered as independents, which is pretty large. It kind of mimics generations as they go along, but it continues to move up. But what's interesting is when they ask the independents where they lean in terms of certain issues, they come across as more Democratic. So this whole group, when you count the Democrats and the Democratic-leaning independents, they're the most Democratic group in history. Modern history that they found. Now, the issues that are the most important to them, David's going to talk about some of them, but the biggest one, they asked what is very important to you when you cast your vote for president. 80% of them said the economy. Not a huge surprise, but what we learned and what Pew kind of surmises from that is that our age group came into the workforce when the Great Recession was just starting. So we really got held back. There were huge groups of young people who were living at home with their parents after they graduate college. And so what happens is the cost of college just compounds that problem, and it makes it more difficult for them moving forward.
Other issues you found, David?
Yeah, education is a huge one. Millennials, they're the most educated generation ever, according to the Pew Research Center. And with that comes a concern about affordability and access. Also, social justice. It's a big concern. The Pew Research Center found that millennials are the most diverse generation in history. And because of that, that really goes into their concern about social justice. Pew Research, they found that 74% of millennials, they find the treatment of minorities a critical issue during this election season. That doesn't just include race, also the LGBTQ community, as well as immigration. So that's a huge topic. We'll be discussing it actually during the second installment of our Battleground Brothers series. We'll be going to Temple University, Vince and I, tomorrow. We'll be discussing social justice as well as climate change.
And you got to watch their reports on our Facebook page. They're great. It's so innovative. It's fascinating to see what you guys come up with. Denise Stacano's in our crowd with some questions that deal with millennials. What did you find, Denise?
Well, joining us now is Lawrence Moore. He's a senior at Rutgers University, and he is a Republican, which is a little rare for sometimes college students, but you are having a hard time deciding which candidate you're going for. What is your question?
Well, my question is, can Mr. Trump be more presidential? I'd like to see in this debate if he can bring it in a little bit, put his policies and tell us what his initiatives are and give us real substance on what he wants to do.
All right, so that's from Lawrence Moore, who's a college Republican, and he's saying, can Mr. Trump appear more presidential? Do you hear that a lot as a concern on campuses that you visited so far?
Yeah, so when we went to Penn State and when we were on the campaign trail, there's not a lot of students who really support Donald Trump. There are small groups of We Are for Trump, specifically at Penn State, and if you watch our piece, you'll see this. The college Republicans, the typical Republicans, they chose not to endorse him. They're not telling their group how to vote, but they're saying we can't endorse him because they don't feel that he is presidential, specifically to his concerns. So can he attract them? Everybody that we spoke to said no. Wouldn't you agree, David?
Yeah, I definitely agree. We also saw a lot of Republican support for the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson. They kind of feel like he has, he's more in touch with their ideals as far as conservative values, Republican values than Donald Trump is.
You still hear Bernie Sanders supporters out there, of course.
Oh my gosh, yes. Definitely, you hear it over and over again. We talked to a lot of students who said that they are lukewarm on Secretary Clinton because they feel as if she is not going after the ideals that they're really looking for. And one student described voting for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton as choosing between cholera and the Black Plague. She said that she probably would lean towards voting Democratic if she decides to cast a vote for president, but some students are saying that they might abstain, which will have a huge impact on this election, whereas turnout could have been much higher if the millennial generation comes out and casts a vote.
Let's go back to Denise, who has another voter out there in our crowd.
Yes, we do have a millennial, Ernest Owens. He's 24 years old, and this debate is very important to you. Tell us why and what your question is.
Definitely, I am decided. I'm voting for Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's no doubt in the world about that. But one of the things I want both of the candidates to focus on is beyond just social issues, is talking about the income disparity. I mean, we're in Philadelphia right now, and there is a lot of economic disparity. You can see a difference between the rich and the poor, and both of these candidates are extremely rich. So I want to know what they're going to do to address these issues, because social issues are important. You know, I'm black and I'm gay, but I want to see them dig in the surface level when it comes to people getting a job, getting access to great education, affordable health care. The social issues are great, but let's talk about economic inequality.
Equalizing that and stopping the disparities in beyond, this is a big picture for you.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you can't do any things if you don't have money, if you don't have resources. These communities, you know, are struggling because of the fact that there's no economic boost to help them. And I want to hear the presidential candidate talk about how they're going to guarantee jobs to everyday Americans.
Battleground Bros?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, well, specifically to how they're going to guarantee jobs, there are economic plans from both Secretary Clinton and Donald Trump. But a lot of, let's say, Secretary Clinton's, for example, one of the students that we spoke to, his name's Ramon, his parents are factory workers here in the Feltonville section of Philadelphia. He says that he feels that a lot of her economic policies are helping his parents, not necessarily himself. So I think that's something that they both have to go towards. In terms of fixing income inequality, they both have said that the minimum wage is, you know, not where it needs to be. I think that, you know, it's really going to be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, David Chang, Vince Latanzio, our Battleground Bros. We're so glad you're here tonight, and you're going to be out on the road, as you said, going to Temple, right?
Yes,
Coming up
Temple
tomorrow.
University tomorrow.
Coming up next. Okay, thanks, guys.